People in the insurance industry, this is like an inside joke to them. A lot of the people that have purchased this over the years have been people in the insurance business. And you got to know, 99% of what I say is a joke, okay? If I'm doing my job right, I'm going to make you laugh and think at the same time.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Zach Ewell, content producer here at Leader's Edge. Over the past couple of years working at Leader's Edge, I've written and reported on many topics, from the insurance behind space satellites flying above our heads to the policies that protect cats and dogs standing at our feet. I've covered a lot in the realm of risk. However, one of my favorite stories that I've ever reported has to be the one about alien abduction insurance. Back in 2021, I interviewed a man named Mike St. Lawrence, president of Alien Abduction Insurance Company. At the time, Mr. St. Lawrence had been selling this unique policy for over 34 years. As someone who found the topics of risk and UFOs interesting, I set out to interview Mr. St. Lawrence to get to the bottom of what an insurance policy for alien abduction looked like, and what claims, if any, had been filed so far. Was this all a joke, or the real deal?
It started in 1987 when I was watching CNN, an interview with a guy named Whitley Strieber, who wrote a best-selling book back then called Communion, and it kind of popularized. I didn't know, I wasn't really paying attention to UFOs or alien abductions. I didn't really follow it until I heard, that interview. And my younger brother was visiting with me then, and he was getting ready to go out to go play pool or something like that. And as he was going out the door, he said to me, "That's what you ought to do something about right there." After seeing that interview on CNN with the Larry King program, about 15 minutes I wrote the outline of the coverages that I was going to do, and I barely changed them until about 5 years ago when I added stuff about quantum physics and stuff like that. It was the thing everybody wanted to get. So I concentrated on that. About a year ahead of that, I was selling reincarnation insurance, $10 million reincarnation insurance. And I'd been selling it by doing radio interviews around the country. And I started getting my taste of wanting to be a stand-up comedian, doing that kind of stuff, and I enjoyed it. So I'd get a lot of questions like, well, what's next?
So, no surprise, the man who sold alien abduction insurance also sold reincarnation policies prior. And he wanted to be a stand-up comedian. But why insurance? I know the commercials surrounding insurance companies are meant to be funny. You've got the Geico Gecko, the Aflac Duck, Allstate's Mayhem, and Progressive's Flow. Did Mr. St. Lawrence just find those insurance mascots funny himself, or did he have a history with the industry?
For about a year in Atlanta, I used to work for an airline called Eastern Airlines, flying from Atlanta, and I was kind of like an executive on board the wide-bodied airplanes. When they first came out, it was a new position they had at Eastern, and I was like a public relations / sales person on board the airplane to generate revenue and to answer questions about people that were coming from, say, into Disney World. That was pretty much fit me like a glove because I never met a stranger in my life. I start off with a joke with everybody. So I really enjoyed that. Anyway, I wasn't that great at sales, but I was great at entertaining people on the plane. After that, I had a job with Liberty Mutual Insurance Company selling real insurance. And that's how I got to know how to write an insurance policy because I was trained to sell workers' comp or insurance to small businesses and stuff like that. And that's where I got the nomenclature and double indemnity and all the stuff that I did. So it paid off for me in the long run.
My conversation with St. Lawrence ended up being very entertaining. The 73-year-old scattered jokes in between the stories he told about his journey traveling America selling alien abduction insurance. He was hosted on many local news stations and radio programs promoting his product. He would often first begin an interview in a serious manner, delivering the facts about his alien abduction policy. But Later on, he would devolve into comedy and humor to signal to the host and the audience that what he was selling was in fact a joke in of itself. The policy he sold would cost someone just $24.95. For that price, a policyholder whose claim was accepted would be paid $10 million. What was the catch? Well, the payment would then be spread out to $1 per year for the next 10 million years. Now, just doing some simple math, the average American currently lives to be 78 years old. If a claim of my alien abduction policy was accepted, this policy would likely take 128,204 generations of my family to be paid out in full over the span of 10 million years. In other words, my 128,204th grandson would be the last benefactor of this policy to pay out. St. Lawrence was indeed a comedian. After my interview with St. Lawrence was published, it began to receive a decent amount of attention online. Several websites and news outlets began to cite it in their own publications. USA Today even cited the interview in an article they published just last year alone. With so many publications and people spreading the word about alien abduction insurance, and since it had been several years last I spoke with St. Lawrence, I decided to try to reconnect with him and see if he had any other humorous policies he was selling. At the very least, maybe he would share some more jokes with me. I started by going to his website, UFO2001.com. My browser told me the web address was no longer in use. Perhaps he had finally upgraded and changed his website. Then I looked at my phone call history from 2021 and found the number I used to call him for the interview.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again.
No response either. Okay. I then used the Internet Archive tool Wayback Machine. This app would allow me to look back on previous web pages that were no longer in use. Once looking up his website again, I found that the last time his website was last seen active was in March of this year. The website had another phone number on the page, so I tried calling that.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time. Thank you.
Another dead end. My search to get in contact with St. Lawrence was far and wide. I even went so far to mail him a letter and ask members of an online UFO community if they knew if he still sold alien abduction insurance. All I got was one response from a user. Quote, "Rumor has it that a round metal object in the sky may have taken him away for a while."
I didn't take into consideration the people that actually had the abduction experience. I thought it was preposterous at first. And then as I got to meet people over the years, I started transitioning to being a believer about what they were saying. They were just ordinary people that, and I heard a lot of stories from a lot of people over the years, and I would counsel them, don't get this if you don't have a sense of humor, because it's not going to be right. But now I'm an advocate for them. The first guy I ever approved to be to get the insurance up in New York State. Sure. He had an implant that came out of his body that was tested by a guy that was the head of the physics department. When I do interviews, I would tell people that they say, "How do you prove that?" You have to get a signature of an on-board alien. And now we have it so when you get a policy, you get a membership card and you can just scan it. And then you can file a claim that way, okay? If you can talk the aliens into letting you scan it. I started out to be a smart ass doing this. And 32 or 37 years later, I'm still a smart ass, okay? But I don't want, I'm an advocate for what's going on with people that say they've had the abduction experience. I got a lot of TV and radio stuff back when I announced that we had approved a claim for the policy. And it was a guy he was a cab driver in New York, okay? He was out eating at a McDonald's with some friends of his, and there was a newspaper article in their local paper, I think it was close to upstate New York, someplace. And they said, "This is the guy you ought to get in touch with." Because he's been telling his friends that he was abducted for his whole life, and they all thought he was nuts. So when he heard about what I was doing, he called me on the phone and told me his story. And I said, "Well, I'll sell it to you, but you have to send me, you don't have to send me a claim form, but I want you to understand that it's $1 a year for 10 million years. And that's how the underwriting I get around the underwriting thing, because it's clear that that's preposterous. Okay. There was another gentleman also from New York. He was a conductor on trains up there, and he had seen my policy. He ordered it and sent me a claim form. He was funnier than I am, okay? And when we got it, we didn't approve it because he sent a Polaroid picture of the inside of a UFO. But it was just like an overexposed, you couldn't see anything but darkness, okay? on the margins, he wrote in, sorry, but the lighting was really bad inside the UFO. And that's just, to me, it was genius on his part. Just, I gotta approve this guy's claim. He deserves $1 a year for 10 million. I started the search for Larry something. I can't remember his last name. Spite or something. I can't remember his name. It was about 2 years later, I got a phone call and I answered it, and the voice said, "You owe me $10 million." And I normally, just so I don't get lost in paying the claims, sometimes I send him like $20 or $10, and he still gets, I don't know if he's still with us. I don't know if the other guy's still with us.
Speaking with and getting to know Mike was a pleasure. He was an absolute character. That's why I tried so hard to reconnect with him. Later on during my search to reconnect with him, I eventually stumbled upon his obituary online. He passed away at the age of 76, just days before the 2024 New Year. Speaking with Mike and being able to share his story has been one of the highlights of my career. At the time we last spoke, he sold close to 7,000 policies of alien abduction insurance. That's nearly 7,000 jokes told. I'd like to thank Mike for the humor he shared with me and the insurance community as a whole. This one's for you, Mike, wherever you are.
If you're open-minded about what's going on in the world, we don't know what life is all about. We don't think we're going to know maybe until we pass away. Maybe then we won't know either. But there's that kind of gnawing thing going in people's minds about all the changes that are going on so rapidly in our society right now. So I think I'm going to try to help people navigate that. Sooner or later, a real insurance company is going to offer real coverage for alien abduction. I am real careful not to misrepresent what I did. I do think that there's something weird going on, how my life has played itself out. I've had a lot of luck in life to have all this stuff happen. I'm still going to be a smartass, okay? But it's to get your attention with humor, to get you to think about other things. I say that if I'm doing my job right, I'm going to make you laugh and think at the same time.